that this meeting is respectfully held on the traditional territory of the Sycas First Nation, on whose land we live and play. You have an agenda in front of you. I'd like to have someone please move that we adopt this agenda.
So moved.
Okay, seconder, Dave. All right. All in favor? Great. You have some minutes in front of you from the regular council meeting October 10th, the committee of the whole, and the October 23rd regular council meeting. Are there any additions or deletions? Okay. Yep, I do have a correction to make. Item number 7 on the October 23rd meeting stated that my report stated that the annual general meeting for the BC Northern Tourism, it stated that 1.85 million was raised by tourism in the north. That should actually say 1.85 billion is raised annually through Northern tourism. So I'd like to make that change, please. Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, good. Thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Okay, item number 4, there's no public hearing. So number 5.1, we have a delegation. Jason Llewellyn from the Regional District is here to talk to us about their application for Northern Develop NDIT, a housing capacity initiative. So Jason, welcome. And I will get you to share what you have to share about this position.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the letter that the Regional District sent and the attached staff report. I'll be very quick. All of the information is really in the report. The Regional District is looking to do what we can to help address the housing issue in the region, and we think that the most meaningful thing we can do to increase the variety of housing in the Regional District is to support municipalities in increasing housing diversity. Greatest need we see is in multi-family developments, 1 or 2 bedroom rental accommodations, that type of thing, and certainly put this project together basically to provide assistance primarily to municipalities in meeting the housing need in the region. You go to page 4 on the attached staff report. It really breaks down the contemplated work plan for this position into 3 parts, just general regional-wide activities. Activities focusing on non-market housing, primarily working with nonprofit groups and societies that are already in existence on getting shovel-ready projects together and seeking grant funding. Certainly getting these groups together where they don't exist. And then the third part is working with municipal governments on market housing initiatives where that local government thinks there's a need and the regional district can provide assistance. Really for each municipality, how this plays out and what work is done really depends on, the first step of that process will be consultation with the local government to see where they think they need assistance and how the regional district can help.
Okay. Any questions, or we need a motion? So would somebody like to make the motion that we support this application for the regional district? Okay, seconder. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Jason.
Have a wonderful meeting. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 5.2. We have a delegation here from Rio Tinto. Welcome, Andrew and Amon. So you have a regular update that you going to provide for us?
Hi, Cindy. Yes, we're going to provide a regular update here. And Andrew, Willeen, do you have the presentation up that'll go up there, or do you want Andrew to share his screen?
probably share his screen.
Okay.
Willeen is
Yep,
not here.
no problem. No problem at all. I'll just hit the share button right now. Do that and then do that. And that should. There we are. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for the call today. And look, I think it's timely. I think especially given the conversation we had last week, but recognising there were some members of the council that were absent from the meetings last week or weren't at the Water Engagement Initiative. We'll cover a couple of the same things and go through where we currently are. So look, one of the first things that I would like to reflect on is that we have achieved full operating capacity at the smelter. We're back to 100% operation following the labour dispute in 2021. So a 2-year journey to get us back here from the time that our workforce were able to re-secure the workforce. I think a couple of points on that as well. We have recruited over 250 new people into the plant. And we have been recruiting and seen a lot of interest in employment opportunities from people in the north, a number of which have been displaced from the forestry industry as well. So Houston, Prince George, etc., has been a recruitment pipeline for us. Certainly, a challenging situation for those communities, but at least there is some relief for some of those families as well. Similarly as well, it represents a significant influx of economic activity in the north of the province. And I think it's over $300 million spent in the last 12 months on contracting and procurement opportunities all north of Prince George. So a significant opportunity for us to affect that. And now that we're back at full production, it allows us to continue on with our sustaining capital development projects. And another one that we've actually just announced this last week is a $110 million project to upgrade our alumina conveyor as well. Again, all of that economic opportunity flowing into contracting companies, etc., that are in the north. Okay. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that we are currently living through one of the worst droughts that the Nechako watershed has ever seen. And it's not a situation unique to the Nechako either. It's happening across the province. We are seeing severe drought impacts, certainly across the province. And where the Nechako is, we are at some of the worst affected of that. An interesting statistic I was given today is that in the last 3 months, we've seen less than 5 days with recordable and measurable precipitation across the watershed. So it is a significant dry period. And that period has continued across the fall, typically when we do receive a significant amount of precipitation. So this drought is certainly one of the worst that we've seen so far. Again, I've touched on this, but observed precipitation in the last month. You can see very, very little. We averaged 58 millimeters across the month of October, and historical average is 112. And certainly in recent history, it's actually even been more than that. This is an old forecast. We had to submit the presentation last week, but again, we are still seeing that dry period continue. Yes.
Your slide hasn't moved.
Oh, sorry. And certainly it has on my end. It's just taking a while to get to Vanderhoof. What I'll do is I'll stop sharing and just reshare and see if that sort of kicks it off. Has that helped? Yeah. All right. I am going to move slides regardless, so that'll keep moving. Can you just let me know when you can see the reservoir elevation slide?
Yeah,
Can see.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so as you can see, reservoir elevations this year, and this is the water year. So we finished the water year at the end of November. The red curve in the middle is the curve this year. And what's interesting about this curve is we've gone from, a fairly reasonable reservoir level, sort of close to long-term average, right up and at the freshet, at the end of the freshet. and then we've trended down significantly today and approaching sort of 2019, which is also one of the lowest levels on record, or one of the other levels of note on record. Another interesting point here is right in mid-August, we actually started importing BC Hydro water. So the actual Rio Tinto reservoir elevation is about a foot lower than this, because BC Hydro actually have the right to the water that they have stored in the Nechako reservoir. So that's part of the energy purchase agreement. It's a facility that isn't very regularly drawn upon, but it also speaks to BC Hydro managing the system across the province and balancing the energy needs of the province across winter and into next year as well. And that was done deliberately to secure the robustness of the network moving forward. Okay, head to the next slide. Can you let me know when that has changed at your end? Yep, good. So the reservoir level projection, this is the one that probably tells the story the best as far as the tools that we use to predict reservoir level across the winter and into the next spring. So the way to read this chart, this is historic reservoir elevation on the left, plotted against time on the right. The light gray curve, and I'll just use my little laser pointer. The light gray curve is the historical average. And as you can see, as we sit here today, we are significantly below long-term average, as we sit here today. And then what we do is we plot the 70 years of history available to us. And then what we do is evaluate the range. So the the dark blue line is the long-term average. The light blue lines are the 80 to 20 percentile range. And then we also plot the max and the min. There is a very atypical winter where reservoir actually increased over the winter, and that's where you see the max. And then the minimum is the driest sequence on record. So as you can see, some of those driest sequences are really approaching an empty reservoir. Since this report was run on the 25th of October, we've actually run the reports again, and this red curve is now bumping off the bottom of the reservoir. So that's caused us to increase our level of response. And now we're unpacking all levers that we have available to us in order to mitigate an empty reservoir before the end of winter, and to make sure that we can sustain the smelter across that winter period. But nonetheless, even with that mitigation, it's still a significant impact for us coming into next year. And even with a long-term average snowpack, we will still finish this spring significantly below long-term average. So I guess for me, the impacts of this drought, even if we see a return to normal snowpack levels and precipitation levels, will linger across the whole of 2024 and even into the spring of 2025. So, this is a significant impact, not only for the revenue of the business, which it certainly is, it's also a significant impact to the provincial energy balance and our ability to support the province's low CO2 energy need. So that's what we're seeing there. If you just look at the chart on the right here, we are currently the driest on record. We're now the 67th out of 67 sequences. Our water year, as far as precipitation goes, since this was run on the 25th, is now the driest on record, so 75% of long-term average precipitation. And inflows is now the second least, so it's the 65th out of 67 years. And that's attributed to the way in which the water is liberated into the reservoir. So no matter which way we look at the data, it certainly is dry, and that's the challenge. Okay, I'll head to the next slide. The Notley River chart, I thought this was worthwhile because sorry, it hasn't changed yet. Yeah, okay, we'll give it a moment.
We see it. Yeah,
we're good.
Okay. The Notley River chart, this for me tells the story of what's happening on the unregulated rivers in the north at the moment. The Stalaco River that feeds into the lake, and then the Notley River that is discharging into the Nechaco is again approaching historic lows. And you can see that from what was relatively normal freshet, if not a bit lower than typical. And that regression line all the way across the summer has come right down into some of the lowest inflows to the system. So that's contributing to the lower releases in the system. Stalaco running that low. And we're also seeing the Stewart River running significantly below long-term average. And what's stark about that is the ground is also moving into that freeze-up period without moisture in the system. And what that means for us is that any water that is liberated across the winter, so snow that is liberated from solar effect, etc., will be taken up by the ground rather than making its way into the rivers, the creeks, and the streams in the way it typically would. And that's quite a significant impact on winter inflows to these rivers, also into the reservoir. And then it will impact the volume of water available into the spring. So quite a challenging situation from that perspective as well. This here is the 7-day mean stream flow for Vanderhoof. You can see the actual again plotted here. Sorry, I'm just going to move that box. So the actual up to date, you can see that we've been sort of above long-term average, or sorry, not above long-term average, but in that 80 to 20 percentile range in the early spring. That trended down as the drought sort of began to take hold. Because it was so hot and dry, STMP was actually above long-term average. It was the 6th most water released in order to sustain the temperatures across STMP. And that was even with some temperature relief during that time. And then you can see us tracking along into the yellow and into the red into November. What's interesting about this is the fact that reservoir releases or releases from the reservoir are consistent, but Nechaco is actually sort of seeing levels higher than a lot of the unregulated rivers around the area on a percentage basis against long-term average. So you can see that we're only slightly below long-term average for this time of year, and sort of down into that yellow period because of the consistent releases from the reservoir. Again, just looking at the Stalaco River, this speaks to that story I was telling about unregulated rivers and the challenge that they have seen. And you can see the Stalaco running below historic long-term, below the historic record, and that's trending all the way into today. And just seeing those numbers this low is incredible. We're in like the 5 and 6 cubic meters per second coming through the Stalaco at the moment, where typically we're at sort of 10, 15, so nearly 3 times more than what we're currently seeing. As far as the freshet forecast and inflow volume, the 2023 average, you can see that we're right down here. But what's interesting is I think this may actually be a hang-up from the last presentation. Sorry, I think, Aman, there may be an error in this presentation because this is the 30th of August forecast. So please disregard this slide and we'll correct this before we issue it. So it's actually further down here now. Okay, moving into out of the hydrology space, and again, certainly happy to take questions at the end. Dam safety has been a huge focus for us this year. We have completed our comprehensive field work for the dam safety review, which is a provincially mandated requirement that we need to complete every 7 years. And this comprehensively looks at all the physical assets, the structures, the spillway gates, the Kenny Dam facilities, all of the Nechaco facilities. We've had engineers, geotech scientists crawling all over the facilities this summer, and even into the plug tunnels under Kenny Dam in the late fall this year. We will actually be moving into completing next year, early next year, the new inundation mapping, which will be of particular interest for the district of Vanderhoof. And that will include all of the new river geomorphology details that's been accumulated over the last 2 years from the LiDAR and sonar scanning that's gone in there. So once that's released, we will go on basically a whole-scale roadshow from all of the communities that are impacted by dam safety considerations downstream of the dam. So starting at Fort Fraser, all the way through into Vanderhoof, Prince George, all the way down, finishing at the Vancouver Airport Authority. So that will go all the way through. With that as well, we will then update the dam emergency plan that currently gets updated annually. So that will be completed and that will be reissued holistically next year. There will be another revision issued this year as well, following our communication test, which is currently scheduled for the first week of December, as per normal. Lastly, we are continuing with our regular inspections. We have our attendants there 24/7, and that is the Cheslada CCLP, so the Cheslada Contracting Limited Partnership, that is now undertaking that spillway attendant work and all of the maintenance, facilitating the maintenance and operations of Skins Lake Spillway. Again, just a bit of a refresher, all of the assets that are considered as part of the dam safety review, so Tatser Intake, Spillway, Bear Lake Dams, Kenny Dams, Cutoff Creek Dams, and even Cheslada Dyke is features into part of this. And then you can see the scope of the inundation mapping as you go all the way through the system. The 2023 Dam Safety Review, I think I've covered that fairly well. This just gives some illustration to the scope of works and the breadth of works that we've had to undertake and some of the unique challenges that we face having the teams access the rock sites and access the area. And as you can see by the ice that is formed there, we were actually still undertaking this work up until a couple of weeks ago. So this has been a huge program of work this summer. 2024, I've spoken about as well, the hydrology reviews for probable maximum flood, dam break studies and inundation mapping, dam failure detection system study, and the review of stability of Skins Lake Spillway. So all of that will be undertaken next year following the field data that was accumulated this year. The drought, we've touched on, or we've issued to the community the frequency asked questions. So is the drought impacting the smelter? What is current intake of water into Kamano? Why is the river so low, etc.? So we've issued that publicly. Certainly happy to take feedback if there are other questions that the community is asking of Vanderhoof or the councillors. More than happy to address those in a future issue of the FAQs. So if you have any feedback, feel free to get that to me now or through Aman at a later date. We can certainly work with the River Forecast Centre of BC to provide some of those answers. Reaching out to us, I know that the lines of communication are always open, but we felt it worth putting this on the public record. If anybody has feedback, complaints, questions, queries, Aman is the face of Rio Tinto in the community, based in the office there. Certainly our contact details are there, and I think just about all of you have got my contact details, cell phone numbers. I'm always happy to talk. For me, dealing with problems up front and early is much more effective than letting problems fester in silence. That's it. That's everything I had. I've covered a lot of ground pretty quickly, but more than happy to take questions, queries, or feedback.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions? Yep, Councillor Frankel.
Hey, Andrew, and it's not a question, but maybe something we could prep for, and maybe you've dealt with it at one of the tables already. But recognizing that the Nechako watershed has increased 2 degrees over the last 100 years already, and the forecasts of the 6 models that I've seen go another 0.5 degree to 5.5 degrees in temperature. Could you guys take a look at what adaptation looks like, climate adaptation? You probably are all over this, but maybe in the next presentation or future, we could talk about what adaptation looks like. Adaptation for power, adaptation to what happens if we keep getting into these drought cycles. What does that mean to your organization and for power requirements and the feasibility of the facility?
Yeah, look, absolutely. We'll take that up as an action to come back to, but certainly just a couple of thoughts initially. The way the STMP is currently structured, we all acknowledge it's not without its problems, but it is actually a climate adaptation in real time because it is a temperature regulated target, not a volume of water regulated target. So, we've seen over, recent history that the volume of water required in order to achieve the same cooling effect is steadily increasing. So already the system is adapting to provide for that. And what's interesting in some of the modeling we've done in the last couple of years is there's a point of temperature. If ambient temperatures are 28, 29, 30 degrees, no volume of water can provide the cooling effect to bring some of those numbers back down. So that is becoming an increasing challenge, and that's driven by the current layout and configuration of the system. One of the things the Water Engagement Initiative is setting up for in future phases is how will the infrastructure developments and potential infrastructure improvements impact and affect those things. The early stages of the work, it's no secret that should have a significant impact favorably on that temperature, both for the Nechaco River, but also for securing the energy block and the energy block for the province, which, as I'm sure you're all aware, is currently the source of a lot of discussion provincially, with BC Hydro putting out that public call for power. The indication that will be the first of a number of public calls for power, which they're looking for in particular in the north. And that's really driven by the province looking to achieve its low CO2 generation targets. So for me, Kevin, I think the path forward is mapped at WEI, and I think a few pieces are coming together to provide for that future state in the coming weeks, months, and years.
And just to follow up again, and I appreciate the stuff on the river. I really do. I'm looking at feasibility of the operation long term. If a drought keeps happening, then there's no water in the reservoir to produce power. How are you producing power to run the smelter? And so that's the adaptation.
Yeah, so look, one of the reasons we've been so passionate to work with Dr. Stefan Derry of UNBC is to get that forward look at climate adaptation and climate change and how it can influence reservoir decision making. Interestingly, the models actually see slightly more precipitation, but the profile of precipitation changing. So less snowpack, more rainfall events, extreme rainfall events, in particular in the spring and the fall, but it is calling for these hotter, drier summers. So, again, we have more to do in that space, and I think that's something we can take away and report back on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Anybody else? Okay. Well,
Well,
thank you, Andrew.
I'll jump in there.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Just a couple of quick things. Just going back to STMP, though that does have a real-time adaptation within it, there is a maximum flow for the STMP as well, right?
There is. In the past, we actually worked with Cheslada as well to exceed that because it's driven by the flood cap in Cheslada. So, it is something that's built in. But again, we have worked to ease that restriction in order to provide for that in the interest of salmon previously.
Sounds good. And the other thing I had was the Cheslada dike. I assume that's where the blowout was on the on that system that caused the Cheslada ban, right? Okay.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right.
I think we're good now. Anyone else? All right. All right, Andrew, Mon, thank you very much. And yeah, and
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
the invitation to get in touch with you if we have any further questions or concerns. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Look, Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Good,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, item 5.3, we have a delegation from the Chamber of Commerce. Leslie and Shelley. Good, good, thank you. Oh, welcome.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, we appreciate you having us here tonight. We do have our year-end activity report, but before I get to that, it was brought to our attention that one of the main questions that gets asked, not just by council, but by almost everybody, is what does the chamber do? So we're going to talk about that first, just so we can maybe clarify and give you a little bit of insight. So first of all, when I talk to people and I say, what do you know about the chamber? A lot of people don't really know what to say. What thoughts quickly come through your mind?
Business.
Events.
Hey, okay, that's perfect. That's great. And that is a lot of what we do. Our motto is connecting business and community. So the chambers, they work with businesses to help the communities grow and to help businesses grow. So we do all sorts of different things, and each chamber does different things as well. So what we focus on may not necessarily be what another chamber focuses on, but that's what we feel is best for our community and works best for us. So the first page that I'm going to go through just a little bit briefly is the benefits of the chamber. And of course, when we talk about business, I always like to talk about what the businesses do for the community. Businesses support local events. They support sports. They support all sorts of employment. And like I could go on and what the businesses do, right? They support the entire growth of our community. So businesses are very, very important. And the chamber helps those businesses reach those goals. So that's what our entire, I guess, just focus is to help those businesses reach the goals that they have, help them to develop any way that they need to, inform them about policy changes, connect them with places that they need to have to help them to develop, or to maybe if they have some issues or problems, we are there for them to help them to get over those humps or those challenges. So one of the things we do help is with promotions. So we have a website, we have an app. I don't know if you're all aware of that or if you remember that from before, but we do have a Vanderhoop app, literally an app on our phones that we can access, and it has the business maps, talks about the businesses, what they offer. It talks about things that happen in town, events, also other things in the area like the hiking trails, that sort of thing. We also promote them on Facebook, and we do have a YouTube channel too. Yes, we do. Yes. So those little videos that we've been putting together, we post them on YouTube. And no, we don't have a huge YouTube channel following yet, but at least we're trying. You know, we're up to date with the social media aspect of it. We actually had a meeting with the BC Chamber representative over the summer, and he was actually floored that we had a YouTube channel. He couldn't even believe that. He was like, you guys are above and beyond what even the BC Chamber is even starting with. So we connect businesses with other businesses. This is actually really sounds kind of funny because you think, well, businesses talk to other businesses, but sometimes they don't. As a business owner, I'm sure that some of you might understand or know, it's hard to get out there. It's hard to meet other businesses, talk to them about other concerns that they have. So we try to help create that connection with other businesses. So we'll either have business luncheons, or we create an online opportunities, Zoom meetings, that type of thing, so that businesses are able to connect. And then, of course, that gives them the opportunity to express their concerns, talk with each other. They find out that one business is struggling with employees. Well, sure enough, so is somebody else, right? And then it gives them an opportunity to talk about it. And really, that is beneficial. Just even knowing that there's other businesses out there that are struggling or that are succeeding or have the same concerns that they have, right? Offering discounts Businesses do offer discounts to each other in their chamber membership. We shape policies. So I don't know if you know about this. This was actually kind of something that happened a few years ago. The BC government actually wanted to implement a a business tax for small businesses and for all small businesses. And it was the BC Chamber of Commerce that actually stepped forward and said, you can't do that. Some of these small businesses are struggling. They're already being taxed. They can't have these more taxes. It's not going to work. And the BC Chamber was actually able to stop that tax happening for businesses that made $150,000 or less. Many of us didn't even know that, but that's what the Chamber does. They work kind of behind the scenes to help businesses in any way they possibly can and to advocate for them. Providing services, so it depends on what the business needs. We have training, we have point of sale machines that we offer. We offer a chamber plan, so like a benefits plan. Some of the businesses like Tim Hortons, they might have a chamber, or excuse me, a plan that helps for their dental, medical, that type of thing, right? But not everybody works for Tim Hortons. They work for Country Cupboard, or they work, right? So they don't have that opportunity to have those benefits. So the chamber plan offers that to them so that they can have benefit packages. We encourage community involvement, and as I'm sure you all know, there's fun things that happen in Vanderhoof, and that happens because of the chamber. The pumpkin walk, Merry Madness, there's lots of things that we do that help promote activities in the community. We also educate members, so there's all sorts of education that's available out there for our membership and for everyone, and we provide them with those access to those. So I talked about the website, the app, business promo, sales. We also have the My Street, My Neighbor, the videos that promote their businesses, and that's an option if they'd like to use it. Not all businesses like to be in front of the camera, and that's okay. That's an option if they want. We're putting together the Business and Excellence Awards, which we haven't had since 2018. So we're super thrilled about that. That's really important, I think, for businesses to be recognized for the hard work that they provide for the community. Of course, we do have the trade show when we can do that, Pumpkin Walk, Merry Madness, and you can just go ahead and just read the rest of them. We do have some of the benefits being part of the chamber is also that we have connections with grants, sponsorships, and those types of things. So a lot of businesses don't understand that there are grants available to them. In fact, even just recently, we found out that Richard Rue had no idea that he had access to this summer student program. Simple things like that. Businesses are busy. They don't have time. They don't know where to find these resources. And we're there for them. We can do that for them. So of course, we have connections with the district, Work BC. We work with other chambers. We work with the BC Chamber. And all of these organizations, we just get the information that we need to help the businesses. So if somebody comes to us and says, hey, we're having a really bad employee problem, we can connect them with Work BC or maybe with somebody else that can actually maybe get some training for some new employees, that type of thing. So the very last page here is just something that we quickly put together just to help kind of just as a quick layout, just to let people know what as a quick reference, I guess, that we can help advocate, we can help with advertising, we help network. And it's actually kind of funny because if the chamber didn't do this job, somebody else would somewhere. Maybe amongst the district, I don't know, but somebody would have to do this job in order to have that connection with the businesses and with the rest of the community involvement. So that's that part. So let's move on to the year in activity report. I don't know if I need to necessarily read through the front because that's kind of just what I've covered just right now. So number one, we have continued to have calls and people walk in, ask about maps, ask about information, ask about moving here, developmental, housing, all sorts of things. So we just direct them where they need to go. We send them to the district, or we get them to get a business license, or we just direct them where they need to go. So we've been carrying on with that. We have booklets, pamphlets, tourism information. We have maps. We have all that type of stuff in the office, and we do have people that come into the office to ask for that information. So we've been continuing to hand that out. Business license renewal, a lot of our businesses do have chamber memberships and are already have an active business license. But when we do have people come in that ask about, we do direct them to the district. We had been having the monthly speaker series, which was our chamber luncheons. I don't know if you're all aware, but we've actually had 3 managers this year. So Shelley is our current manager. Yay, Shelley Fong. She's all ours. So there has been a little bit of hiccup with that, just trying to keep that consistent. Our manager Taylor had come on just around the time when our summer student had started, and she had started a campaign, which was our Live Love Local campaign that was funded by the NKDF. And so she really was focusing on training and working with that summer student. And since then, it has been a little bit difficult. However, it also has been really difficult for the businesses to commit to attend. So it's actually kind of worked out okay, but we do have quite a few things planned for 2024. We did carry out 2 business walks this year. One was in April, one was in September, and they were incredibly successful. I did include that in that final document with the final page. And I probably won't go over all of that with you guys. You can probably just look at that after, but they were, the businesses are always very active in talking to us. So it really works really well because of course we walk in and they see our faces, right? They want that face-to-face contact. They want to have that personalization, and it really helps to find out their successes, what their goals are, how they're doing, and if they have any questions or concerns. And so we will continue to carry those out because it's been excellent. Just to get feedback, you know, where they want to see the community go, that type of thing. So number 6, we do relay the information back to Tom. Tom's been great attending our meetings. Also Shelley's been here at your district meetings as well. So that communication is going really well. We promote the District of Vanderhoof web pages as well. So we have that connect on our website, so they can just click on it and it just goes back and forth between our websites. The development, so we have advocated for businesses at for the BC Chamber of Commerce, and we do work with the Ministry of Finance as well. I don't think we put that on here, but we can contact and communicate. In fact, I was in a face-to-face meeting with the Ministry of Finance a couple years ago, and I was able to ask her questions. Like we have so many connections like that people just don't even realize that we have. So definitely helps with all sorts of growth and development and concerns in the businesses, for the businesses. Organized year-end business activity reports, which we do have that in the, that's what this is, and conducted the business walk, reintroduced the chamber point, which we did just recently, just because of the lack of the chamber luncheons. So our chamber point was a newsletter that we were sending out monthly. And we actually just felt that it wasn't really something that was beneficial, but because we do have Shelley, and like I said, because of the chamber walk, or excuse me, because of the chamber luncheons weren't being held, we thought we really needed to reintroduce them so that we can get the businesses aware of some of the things that are happening right now in the community. We are also looking at creating some partnerships with the Good Neighbors Committee, and we've also been in contact with the Vanderhoof Historical Society, and we're hoping to create some sort of event or work with them in the future. So this year we also, like I had said before, we had a grant from the NKDF and we participated or carried out, the Live Love Local campaign. Not this year, but last year there was a huge campaign in Northern BC. I don't know if you all remember which was the Live Love Local. There was actually a sign on the highway, and that was what we wanted to do, is carry that on because it was such a successful campaign that was run. And we would actually like to carry that again for next year because it was just creating that community engagement and that interest. We created a lot of online engagement. It was really, really good. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Tom.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the report, you guys. That was brilliant. And also I want to give you kudos on the pumpkin walk again this year. It was a fabulous event. I enjoyed it very much, and so did my grandkids. So with the businesses talking to one another, we used to have a thing at one time called Business After Hours, where we would all meet at a business and that business owner would be able to show all the other businesses the back workings of what the business did, how it worked out, stuff like that. People would get together and we'd have like a pizza and some refreshments or whatever. And it was just a chance for the businesses to see what another business does. also all gathered in one place and talked to one another about what they were going through. And I think nowadays, most of businesses are going through very similar things with one another and could probably feed off one another on ideas and things like that. Are you guys looking at ever reinstituting the business after hours program? Or
Well,
do
honestly,
you remember any of those?
no.
Oh, okay, I'm
Okay.
old.
Um,
You guys remember any of them?
I mean, it's a possibility. We are talking to Wayne Selesky right at the moment about having a tour of the White Sturgeon facility for members of the Chamber of Commerce. So first we're going to do one with the board, and then we want to get one together and have an evening or an afternoon or something that we could be in one spot, and then groups take tours of the facility.
Beautiful.
So working on that, and next year I've got a couple of businesses lined up to do luncheons already. We're just getting too busy with Christmas approaching.
Right on, yeah.
So working on a couple of that for next year. With the BC Chamber of Commerce, we've been working on a couple of things. The grant just came out, will be November 22nd. You can start to apply for it, and it's for vandalism, if you've had vandalism to your business. So there's a $2,000 grant for vandalism that you can apply for, and it goes all the way back to January 2023. There's also a $1,500 grant that they can apply for additional security, cameras, bars, whatever the case may be. So any business, I've already forwarded the basic information to our members. The actual application will be coming out within the next week because you can start applying for it on the 22nd. Also through the BC Chamber, we have initiated trying to get the federal government to extend the CERB payoff for another year. Instead of having to have it paid off by December this year, they're trying to get another 12 months into that. So I've extended that to all our members to hopefully sign the petition and get that off to the federal government. So I'm hoping they did follow through on that. I know we did. But things like that, I've talked to Northern Development Initiative, and there's a grant for businesses that may be struggling either to grow in the internet business or struggling for consulting. And I'm going to present that to a few of the businesses and see that I know of, and also to the rest of the businesses, so that we can maybe get them in contact with the Northern Development Initiative.
Awesome. Thank you.
Working on the business excellence, and we're getting good response from that. So
Great. And I was my honor to attend with you guys the business walk, the fall one this year. And I do believe it should happen twice a year, once in the fall to see how summer went for the businesses, and then once in the spring to see how Christmas and the winter went. I think there are two different stories about how things work. And so I think 2 times a year is a great thing to do with that. And I learned a lot by going around and speaking with some of the businesses as well. So thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, well, oh, Dave, did you have one? Go.
Just a couple of questions. So we've got quite a number of businesses in the community. What percentage of businesses are members of the chamber?
I guess we would have to know the number of businesses that are actually here, but
Right.
we would have, how many members do we
right
have?
now we are about 110 with
Okay.
businesses that are coming up for membership right this month and next month. So once those are all paid up, we'll be at about pretty close to 110.
Right. And then for the chamber, how are you aligned with the Better Business Bureau?
I don't think we have much contact. Not that I have had it.
Okay.
The time
Not
I've been there.
Right. Because I'm just thinking of it, because back when I used to own Vandal Enterprises, we were never members of the chamber, but we were members of the Better Business Bureau. So, and at that time, the Better Business Bureau was always looking after the interests of small business and working with legislators and stuff on a variety of different things. And it sounds like you guys are kind of heading that path and doing some similar work. And so I just thought maybe there might have been linkages between the work that you do and what the Better Business Bureau does.
Yeah, I can't even say that really anybody has even mentioned the Better
Oh.
Business Bureau to us, and maybe they just have kind of not.
They're
as
certainly
involved
not as, they're certainly not as out there as they used to be. So I
Yeah.
wonder if they're just, their, you know, presence is not as strong as it was 10 years ago or so, or 20 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Frank.
I'm glad to see you here tonight, just because you're doing a great job for our community, and you never get the thanks as much as you should. So
Thank
thanks
you.
for doing that. And I'm, you know, I'm not the YouTube type person, but Prince George, is it 2 years ago, brought in a social influencer, and the uptick that social influencer did was amazing. So I'm wondering if that's something that the Chamber's looked at doing with their YouTube stuff, is to hire a social influencer, or if there was grants through NDI or whatever it may be to bring somebody like that in that's got 30, 20 million followers, whatever that means. Because if you talk to Simon Yu and the previous mayor, that was a positive thing by bringing in an influencer.
Yes, well, it's definitely the way of the future, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's online, especially if we're gonna touch base with the younger people,
Yeah.
right? Like that, they're online, so.
If you can bring Taylor Swift here for a concert. We're all trying.
We're all.
Okay, that's perfect. Maybe that's something that, you know, I don't know what the cost is. I think it's 25 grand they charge to be an influencer to come. But maybe that's something we could help seek a grant.
Right.
Okay.
Well, definitely with the funding that we have at the moment, I mean, having somebody hired full time, but probably not be feasible, but yeah, maybe if through a grant.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Something we can talk about for sure.
Well, I have a couple questions for you. So speaking of grants, so do you just direct people to grants? You don't help them complete the grants?
No, we don't. I mean,
Okay.
we probably could, but we're not exactly.
Okay,
grant
that's right.
writers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
Okay.
usually if anything, we redirect them to community futures.
For
or
sure.
Somewhere that
Yeah.
they can get that.
Okay,
That
yeah.
help from.
and my second question is, you know, tourism. Do you work with Northern Tourism at all? Like, because that is a huge industry.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I used to be on the tourism board and I used
Right.
to attend the meetings here at the district, and then we don't know what happened to those meetings. So I'm not sure if they continued on, or because Taylor came in and because we had Juliana leave and all that stuff happened, we haven't heard of them. So we would love to be a part of that or be involved again if that's happening. But other than that, we haven't really heard.
But you don't connect with BC Northern Tourism at all, though, because that's,
No.
yeah, okay.
I can't.
All right, okay.
But we will.
Yeah, I
Sure.
know they have lots of different, and I think there's a real link between tourism and business,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and I just, you know, I think that might be something worth exploring to, you know, promote our community and the businesses in our community.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
We have the tourism strategy, right?
right.
Coming our way.
Yeah, yeah,
So once that probably lays a path forward.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
yeah, good.
Sounds good.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very
Thank you.
much. Good, great. Great. Pull up my agenda. Okay, so we are on to our CAO reports. So we had item 6.1, the Vanderhoof Chamber of Commerce Parade of Lights. So anyone want to speak to that or make a recommendation or a motion? Okay, seconder? Any questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay, all in favor? All right, carried. Okay, oh darn, here we go. All right, item 6.2, the UBCM Emergency Preparedness Fund. So there's a recommendation for a grant application for $30,000. Does anyone want to speak to that or no? Yeah, okay. Any questions? Or well, first of all, get someone to move the recommendation.
I'll move it.
Okay, seconder? Okay, Councillor Vandola. Any questions? None? All right, I'll move the motion. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Oh dear. Item 6.3, the active transportation grant. Oh, sorry. Nope, 6.3, the active transportation grant. Oh, that's good. You're hurrying me along here. Okay, all right. Does somebody want to make, to speak to that? Our financial officer, no?
This is for our grant application to the BC Active Transportation Program. We are asking to put forward the project. One of the projects is within our active transportation plan, and it's the continuation and completion of the sidewalk on Victoria Street.
Good. All right, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move that.
All right. Okay. Seconded, Councillor Martins. Okay, any concerns, questions? All right, all in favor? Oh, I don't get to. I'm a rookie. My first time. All right, item 6.4. Okay. Okay. Somewhere it's there. All right, so we have a policy recommendation that submitting a request to council be adopted as amended. Somebody want to move that? Seconder, Councillor Vandola, all in favor? Good. All right. All right, now we are on to item 6.5, the small business cardboard recycling fees bylaw. This is, I believe, to be adopted here. Does somebody
Move to
wanna
adopt.
move to adopt? Second? Second, Councillor Frankel. Does anyone want to speak to it? Okay, Councillor Martins.
Thanks. I just was wondering what the process is for businesses that aren't on that list of companies that were listed, list of businesses that were on the list, how they get added to that list. The process is for that.
CAO, can you?
Thank you, madam. So bylaw, if it is approved today, adopted today, so that is the bylaw you have to follow. Now there are 49 businesses, small businesses in that list. And so if anybody is not interested to participate that program, they communicated, and accordingly we are dealing with that one. So means that they are not participating, they are not willing to participate. But if somebody wants to add with that one, it is a little bit challenging. So because in the bylaw, we mentioned the list of businesses as a Schedule A. So then if we want to add anybody in that list, we have to go through the process again. But it is not very lengthy process. It will be just communication with council and add that business.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, all in favor? Right, so moved. All right, so councillor item 7.1. We have a draft from the Accessibility Committee meeting minutes. Would the chair like to speak to that, or?
This was meeting number 2. I think we're making some good foundational ground. Obviously, it'll take a while to get things moving and get the plan in place, but I think we're making some solid progress.
Good. All right, thank you. Okay. So council, we'll start with Councillor Frankel on the left, all by himself here, so.
Oh, that's good. And get into enough trouble over it, so. Just to go back a couple days, November 6th, Councillor Van Dolen and I participated in a community forest interview about wildfire with the BC Community Forest Association. They're looking for projects, potential areas to do work on urban interface, or a WUI, wildfire urban interface, WUI. We don't have a WUI. So, because there are, we've got lots of land base between us, agricultural land base between our community and where our community forest is. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, Councillor Van Dolen and I probably took an hour and 20 minutes of their time, and we were allotted 45. So one, we probably like to talk. But it was an interesting thing. I think we ended up on a really interesting comment that I know others in this community are working on, and that's the use of beavers and not beavers per se, but beaver dams to store water in creeks. And so that project might go forward with the BC Community Forest Association. Or obviously the board of the community forest would have to look at whether that was a project or not. But they were quite intrigued by how that would store water. And so, especially when it has to go through the agricultural belt to get to the Nechako. So if we store water up in the upper watershed of Clear Creek, it just takes its time to get there, and it releases water through the year for the cattle down below if we're in a drought. So it might be one of those adaptation measures that the community forest can take a good look at. And beavers have a negative connotation with farming communities for sure. But BDAs, or beaver dam, whatever the acronym is something that might be a project. Quickly attended the Nechako Watershed Roundtable, as well as other councillors. The environment meeting on November 9th, Councillor Bulmer and myself attended with Councillor Vandola. And then on the 9th, the Nechako Watershed Roundtable met with Finn Donnelly, the parliamentary secretary, and we were trying to lobby for money for the Nechako watershed because we're way up north. We don't seem to get any, but I think it was a really good meeting, and he's tasked team members to look at short-term solutions for us. So one thing I do want to talk about that we need to worry about it as a community and we're working on. Last week, most of you will have seen 3 different sets of fire maps. This one that I held up is Cheslata's fire map. It is an amazing look at what's been burnt over, in this case, 10 years. The ones that I've been involved in show back to 2003. So there's 3 sets of maps out there. The Regional District of Bulkley-Nechako has done a map. Cheslata has done a map. And I've been involved in looking at with Wayne, map of Vanderhoof and Fort St. James. So we're working together to try and get all of this data onto one database, and then actually have the spatial data that goes with it, that falls underneath it, that tells us what has been burnt over those 20 years. How much plantation, how much old growth, how much, those type of things. And so it's a pretty big project, but we're working on that off the side of our desks and at no cost to anybody, but might cost us a bottle of tequila. So, but it's important work. It's important work because when you start to look at these land bases, we're probably pushing 50% of the land base has been burnt in the last 20 years.
Yep.
And so we need to address that when we're talking about climate change. So that's enough of my soapbox. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Vandola.
Thanks. Yeah. So as Councillor Frankel indicated, we met with the provincial community forest group, and along with what Brian talked about with using beavers to create watersheds, we also talked about our kind of goal of adapting our land to to take advantage of climate change, to have assisted migration of species. So we're looking at including things like more Douglas fir in our plantations. And we're also talking about, changing stocking standards to incorporate aspen and cottonwood in those forests. So that's another piece that we talked about. Also went to the Nechako Watershed Roundtable item, and as well as looking at wildfires overall in the watershed and the impacts in the watershed. One of the speakers there was Dr. Yongi Aliyah. He's a professor, a hydrology professor at UBC. And he talked about the impacts of clear cutting on the watershed. And the piece that I thought, and there's some definite impacts of clear cutting on the watershed, but the one that came out very loud and clear to me was the impacts of wildfire on watersheds. And when asked what the impacts of wildfires were over a watershed, he said it was a magnitude of 10 over what clear cutting would be. So the reasoning is because you're burning the duff layers. There's the water's going directly into the ground. It's not actually going into the actual watersheds themselves. So that was a big aha moment for me. And I'd been in forest industry for 40 years. So that was something that I was unaware of. Also went to the Watershed Engagement Initiative meeting with Rio Tinto and the WEI group. The piece that was, as Andrew talked about in his presentation today, was just didn't really say the number though. So right now, currently, the reservoir level is at 2,792 feet. The maximum level is 2,800. So we're down 8 feet. And the reservoir empty level is 2,785 feet. So there's not much water in the reservoir. Just to make that a little more clear for people to think about. We also had an environment committee meeting. We talked about recycling, climate adaptation, and one of the things we also talked about was being a bear smart community. And one of the things that the Conservation Officer Service is looking to do is, if you are not a bear smart community and they have to destroy bears because of actions that the community hasn't taken, then we will be the ones having to pay for the conservation officer's time to do that. So that's something that we'll be looking at as a council to get ourselves become a bear smart community. And then, and also with that, we're looking at radon testing in the community, and so far we've had 72 houses have applied for radon kits, so that was exciting to hear. And then lastly, here yesterday, we met with Minister Dix to announce the funding for our primary care facility, and that was a very exciting day for Vancouver. Yeah, sure. And that's it for me.
All right, good, thank you. Councillor Bulmer.
Ditto.
Oh.
Basically, I started with pumpkin walk, I learned more about fire and water in the last week than I've ever learned in my entire lifetime. I was also at the Nechako Watershed Roundtable. We went to the Water Engagement Initiative. We had our environmental meeting, ended with the Remembrance Day services on Saturday, which were fantastic. So I can't add any more than these two have already had.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor Martins.
Thanks. I can't really add anything more either. I agreed. I wasn't going to mention the pumpkin walk, but it's good because I think everyone was there.
Yeah.
And it was kudos to the chamber. It was great again, just like it always is. So that was great. Of course, we're all there with your grandkids, and that's what it's meant to be. So it really does bring the community together for sure. And then, just like Councillor Van Dola was saying, I thought it was really exciting at the meeting with Minister Dix yesterday, just that announcement. And I just wanted to make sure that we, as new councillors anyway, the three of us on this side over here, it's 3-1, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
We have, can't count Councillor Loza, she's in charge. But I just thought I really wanted to make sure we gave credit to previous years council, mayor and council for the work they've done before we got here. because that was a huge part of it. We can certainly help take some of the credit, no problem with that.
Yeah,
But good on you guys. Thank you.
thank you. Mayor Moutre, would you like to talk now or at the end? Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, either way.
Okay, well, I'll go for it.
Okay, well, I'll start by reminding Councillor Vandola to turn his mic off. The poor camera keeps swiveling back to him every time somebody turns off. Okay. It's been a few weeks, so quite a few things going on, but I really want to concentrate mostly on this last week. Of course, the Shaka Watershed Roundtable on the 7th has been brought up a few times. This is so important, and this group does such great work. That's not just speaking as a former co-chair. It was another awesome meeting, and hopefully the meetings with Finn Donnelly went well, and he can find some money to keep it going in there, because when you spend all your time trying to find funding, you know, there's so much more good work that could be done if that wasn't the case. A bunch of us were, or 3 of us were at the WEI meeting November 8th. This is, it's been a long 3.5, 4 years, whatever it's been. We are getting to the end of phase 1. So this is a really good time, and I was glad to see that extra engagement in there with a couple more councillors there, because there are some tough decisions going to have to be made, and I think it's good to have everybody up to speed on where that's going. One big piece of learning out of this one was that, you know, sort of the last 2007, 2015, 2022, all either flooding years or big water years, right? And when you dig into them, we did a big dive into 2015, and that was really all caused because of Rio Tinto switching over to the new smelter. You look at 2007, yes, there was a lot of snow, but there was operational issues with Rio Tinto then with the line down. 2022, they had a strike. So really showing for us that it's great to plan these things out, and the models show that there isn't a lot of flooding in Van Hoof under all these different scenarios. But really, if something goes wrong with Rio Tinto's operations, we're still very vulnerable. So we need to keep that forefront and make sure that we're working on flood mitigation strategies going forward. This week, yesterday, I started off the day at Tim Hortons. Their smile cookies this year are all benefiting Nechako Valley Search and Rescue. So that's a great cause. Had a bit of a photo up there with them to kick that off, and great to see local businesses supporting local organizations like that. The announcement in the afternoon was talked about. I think Minister Dix is going to be very glad that I will stop pestering him to get this announcement out. It's going to be an awesome facility. It's just so amazing. Again, recognizing the former mayor and others that have no longer in those positions that worked hard on it, and it's great to see it coming. So we've got an announcement. We know it's going to happen, and I can't wait to see that going forward. It was supposed to be announced today sometime, and I haven't seen an announcement, so I'll assume it's announced and go ahead and talk about it. On Saturday, there's going to be an event celebrating the old hospital and sort of saying goodbye to it. So there's going to be a barbecue, some other stuff up there. So it'd be great to see people there. Imagine quite a few in the room were born there. A lot of memories there, right? Good and bad. So good to see it and say goodbye. I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you. Okay, so on October 23rd, I attended an early adopter local government group on affordable offsite wood housing construction meeting.
Can you
So-
give us the acronym?
Yeah, and it was just a group that is just trying to, you know, look at that as an option and policy around that, procuring, I guess, the public procurement policy, I guess, for off-site construction projects. So that was an interesting meeting, and certainly a interesting direction, and something that could potentially help alleviate some of the stress and concern around housing. So I'll be looking forward to future meetings around that as well. on October 30th. I attended a Business Council of BC discussion, I guess, on the economic implications of Clean BC Roadmap to 2030. So there was a lot of interesting points in that as well. And Councillor Randola, you were there as well. So yeah, again, just food for thought and lots of things to think about around that. On November the 8th, I attended the Historical Society. They had a time to honor it was Indigenous Veterans Day. And so they organized a tea and particularly highlighted Dick Patrick, which was very interesting. His sister spoke. So a really successful event. And I think it was a really important event as well. So it was very well attended and I was very honored to be there. And I think that is it. So thank you. All right, so we'll move on then to item 8.1. So the October checklisting. Right, is there any questions around that? Any concerns?
Move to receive.
No, we just I guess we could do all kinds of things. Oh, all right. Item 9.1. So there was a request from Avison Management, who are renting the VTCC for their Christmas party, and they're asking, if it's okay to serve wine with their dinner. So is there anyone who would like to speak to that or have some concerns? All right, Councillor Frankel.
Yeah, I think if we don't have a policy, I would maybe ask that staff create a policy for this. Just so everybody knows. You know, this is one of the firsts, right? This is probably an organization that wants to have a Christmas party there. So it's a first, and we're going through those year of firsts. Really, it's been 2 years, but year of firsts, and it continues. So I think we should just task staff to come up with a policy on these type of items. It was probably never, in my recollection, wasn't made for those type of events, but I would move it to staff to.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion around that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 2 things here. Number 1 is the policy. But what is the decision from council about this request?
Mhm.
Are you entertaining this one or not? And policy, if you pass a motion to prepare a policy, we can work on that one, but that will take time because
Mhm.
preparation, going to council and
Right.
approval. So if you can clear that one into 2 categories of decision.
Okay, sure. All right, Councillor Boone.
I have a question. If we allow this time or not allow this time, will it set a precedence for the policy that staff is going to come up with? Like, if we do it this time, do we have to continue? Or if we don't do it this time, do we have to continue? I don't understand where this one fits into the policy making.
Thank you. So this is not very unusual type of request because other municipalities, they entertain this types of request. Council approve that. So it is not very unusual that if you are approving now and policies coming from administration not to approve in the future or no policy, we are advising. So I don't think that it will be a grandfather type of situation that you are approving today and then you are bound to approve the policy. It is not.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Frankel.
Follow up. If we rent the facility out to an organization, do we then have to pay for the time for a person to be there? In this case,
Okay, so when we did up the policy, it's similar to the arena policy. So whenever there's alcohol, we have to ask the council to waive waive that, right? So we set up the policy the same as we did at the arena. We also ask for a huge damage deposit, especially when there is alcohol involved. One of the main concerns is, we have items that, could go missing. We have, all that kind of stuff, but we are confident this group isn't going to be out of control. It's 25 people coming to it and they're not selling it. It's basically just, a couple bottles on the table and they want to just be able to have that with their dinner. It's not like if it was more of a party where I thought it could get out of control, I would say something to let you guys know that. But it's similar to the same agreement that we have at the arena. So anytime there's alcohol, we have to get council's approval.
Do you still have to be there though for
Yeah.
that time of that event? Okay. For-
Depends on who's attending too, so.
Okay. That would be a defining thing for me. If you were into hall rentals, usually the team's there already, but now that's a cost to us to have it in there.
And it's a double cost too,
Yeah,
right?
okay. I would.
Yep.
And so I would take a look at this and say we would decline this. And they're working on a plan.
Okay.
And that's not staff's fault. That's probably us not having all of those things identified. But I would decline this and then give time for staff to write a policy that includes this type of option.
Okay, so we need a motion.
Can I speak?
Oh, sorry.
One more thing is that even though it's written under the same policies right now as the arena, this is a different venue. It's a way different venue than the arena. And so I think the policy for the VTCC should be one unto itself and completely separate from the arenas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to say also, because of the nature of that building and if alcohol is being served and we don't have staff there and it's open, there may be insurance implications as well for the district and it may not be something we want to allow.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. So I guess we'll go back to this letter then. CAO, we need to have a yay or a nay vote on yes or no. Okay, so could we get a motion for this request then? Councillor Frankel, would you
Yeah, I'll move that we decline the request.
Okay, seconder. Okay, all in favor? All right, good, thank you. So the letter or the request is denied. And then secondly, then I would like to, because I think it's, you're right, the VTCC is a very unique building or a facility, to the arena. And I think it's important to support staff and have a policy. So would one of you like to make a motion for staff to work on a policy for the VTCC as for this type of, as being used for this type of an event?
I would like to make that motion that we have a unique policy for VTCC.
Yeah, okay. Seconder? Okay, Councillor Van Dola. Okay, all in favor? Good, thank you. Oh, for sure, sorry.
I was just gonna say too, with having the application declined like that, just making sure that, if they've put a deposit or anything down already, if they find a new venue, that there's no penalty for
For sure.
canceling their,
No,
you know,
no.
they get all of it back
No.
without penalty or whatever
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of, no hassle with that.
No.
They
Yeah,
have to
that
be able
is,
to do.
yeah,
So-
yeah, it is.
Okay.
No, and I'll just give them some different options. No worries.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks.
Heidi,
Yeah.
for clarification, we have a unique policy
have
for
a
the
policy,
VTCC, right? It would just be an amendment to the policy for
Yeah, correct.
liquor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the.
Because that was added in there when we first created it. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it would still be good to have a conversation, I think.
There'll be
about it,
events like
Yeah.
that. My issue is that if the parties, and any party, it's not this one, is 5 or 6 hours, paying somebody to be there for 5 or 6 hours.
And I don't like the idea of that it's, you know, you said, I think this is a pretty good group, nothing bad's gonna happen, but all of a sudden you saying that, it all falls back on you, like, you know,
It's a
oh
big
yeah, I already said, you know.
Okay.
And that's not, yeah, but that's not fair to you either.
No, no.
Like that
And
would
you
be
know what,
horrible.
to be honest, we have been worried about this one.
So that alleviates that worry for you too.
It's company. That's a.
But that's, yeah, so you don't have to get this off your shoulders too.
No, we'll give them some options.
Good, thank you. All right, that's the end of our agenda, so I'd like to adjourn this meeting. To move into, yeah, and we don't need a motion.
No.
Perfect, yes, good. Good, thank you. Is that all?
Don't forget, we'll need to stop recording and then start up again.